I've got the authority to be sitting on that table, and I know that I'm adding value. And there's that feminine power that actually comes with knowing that even if you're sitting amongst men and they have their say, you can equally take your space and have your say and contribute meaningfully as the expert that you are. Currently sitting on 20 million subscribers.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's been really tremendous in deliberate growth. Amazon is one of them that we've started with, and in fact, they are very impressed with the performance.
Hello and welcome to ITWeb TV with me, Sibahle Malinga. And today we continue profiling South African women who play an important role in the ICT sector and who are doing their part to help actively transform the telecom sector. We all know that in the digital economy, mobile network operators are offering so much more than connectivity and just a way of making a phone call. But really, the telecoms industry is undergoing quite a major transformation as a result of emerging technologies, such as we're looking at virtualized networks, the Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence, 5G wireless networking, or is it 6G? I can't keep up these days. So these are all technologies that are driving faster and reliable communication infrastructure. And today, I'm fortunate enough to be joined by someone who will be helping us unpack some of these trends. I'm joined in studio by Dr. Noxolo Kubheka-Dlamini, who is the Chief Digital and Information Officer at Telkom. And yes, Doctor. Good afternoon, Doctor, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me, Sibahle.
It is an absolute pleasure to have you join us. Well, a little later on, you're going to be talking to us as well about, the importance of promoting gender parity in the telecom sector, which is crucial because we know that when it comes to female representation in this field, the numbers are far from satisfactory. So these are some of the issues that we'll be touching on.
Thank you.
So I guess it will be great for you just to start by giving us a brief overview of your professional background and how your journey landed you in your current position as the Chief Digital and Information Officer at Telkom.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So, my journey has really been an interesting one. Obviously, in terms of the background, I've got a PhD in IS, and I was focusing more on the business intelligence and the convergence between IT and the data analytics space. So, but prior to that, my undergraduate degree as well as the master's was focused on information systems, and then I branched a little bit into information management and knowledge management, which then introduced me into the data analytics space, which was very fascinating. And I suppose that has contributed a lot in what I've been able to achieve to date. But in addition to that, from a background point of view and the career path that has brought me here, I've been fortunate enough to work for multidisciplinary industries. I started my career in mining as a bursary student.
Interesting.
And then my first official job and career after the internship was at Sasol from an energy point of view. And I then moved on to the banks. That was when I completed my master's, focusing on the intelligence side, information and knowledge management, because I wanted to be in an environment where I could apply those skills. So from the banking, I worked for both Standard Bank as well as ABSA. I then figured that, having done all of that, how about going into an SOC and apply those skills and help them with the journey that they were undertaking at the time, where they were looking for someone to actually set up big data analytics environments from an analysis point of view. So I went there to do that. And from then, the sky has really been the limit, because I moved from strength to strength, growth to growth, to an extent that by 2014, I was already a CIO. Got my first opportunity to become a CIO. So it's really been interesting. And the diverse portfolios have really prepared me for this interesting, very nuanced, but also fast-paced industry, which is telecoms. With the telcos, everything has to be done today. Agility and speed to market, it's all that makes us win. So it's very exciting to be in that space. And I'm bringing to the table everything that I've learned from the different industries, from the different companies, because if you look at the skill sets that one has been able to develop in really bank, it's transferable skills. So it can only make one more better and more effective.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like quite a huge job that you have, because I think we all know too well the experience of trying to reach your app or going to an ATM and you find that there's downtime and the ATM is offline and you can't really access your app, you can't make the transaction, the frustration that comes with it. So your role is to ensure that doesn't happen, or at least happens as less frequently as you possibly can. And in cases where it does happen, in the unfortunate cases, then you're able to quickly find a resolution. But, before we talk about some of the new technologies that Telkom is integrating into its, into its digital platforms, I'd like us just to go back a bit. There was a time when, as a child, we thought that Telkom is the only mobile network operator, and probably there were not as many as what we see now. I remember that, you'd see Telkom vehicles everywhere. And, of course, those were the days of landline phones, and we all knew Telkom, and we all thought Telkom is the only telecoms company that exists. But let's go back to their times. Let's just provide us a brief history of Telkom, and I'm particularly interested in the evolution that Telkom has gone through, because there was a time when there was talk of Telkom being disrupted by the new players. Yeah. And really that transition, and how important that transition is for Telkom to also become, catch up with the latest technologies in order to avoid being disrupted.
Excellent. In fact, I think that's one of my favorite things that really...
That's why we're here.
Yeah, that make me take pride in the company that I'm working for. I mean, really, if you look at back in history, to your point, I mean, Telkom was a fixed operator, right? With fixed lines and everything.
And that's what Telkom was really more known for, because that was their focus area.
Exactly. But thanks to the leadership at the time, and thanks to the people, I mean, the employees in Telkom have really taken the changes by stride, because they had to convert their skills to be able to deal with the latest insofar as mobile network is concerned, coming from a background where in the history where they were used to dealing with your normal desk phones and so forth. So, I mean, Telkom has really transformed. I know that people still feel that the digitization is only starting now. But if you look at the work that Telkom employees, through the leadership support, have had to actually come up with to get to the level that we are at. I mean, we're currently sitting on 20 million subscribers.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's been really tremendous in deliberate growth, and that was only enabled by the employees that we have in the digital solutions that we've been adopting. There's still a long way to go, but I think we've actually quite made it. And the other point that's worth noting, given the history of Telkom, is that we didn't get a greenfield opportunity. It was brownfield, because you had to build on what you had. And as we were doing that...
And there was a lot of legacy to deal with,
exactly,
which makes things even more difficult.
And we couldn't drop the service. We were transforming...
Because they were customers at the end of the receiving
Exactly. And we're still dealing with parts of the legacy. We've made progress. We've done upgrades to modernize our environment, our infrastructure, our networks, our systems. We've been in a journey over the years of modernization. And now that we've stabilized from a modernization point of view, we are now really looking at leapfrogging from a digital transformation that's now taking us to the next level. We've received incremental growth based on the legacy and the fact that we had to balance the skills in terms of providing the traditional services that we're providing, the traditional products that we're providing, was also introducing new products. So now the focus is more on making sure that we take everything to the next level, and the results of the last year's performance are really telling on that.
So, I know that Telkom is a multifaceted company. So as a CIO, is your focus on all the various business units of Telkom? Do you ensure that, if you're introducing a digital platform, is it part of your responsibility to ensure that each business has a similar platform but obviously aligned, speaking to the context of the business?
Okay, it's done in two parts. So we've got business units, as we have subsidiaries such as BCX's, OpenServe, yes, and then at Telkom Group, that's where everything converges. So for all transversal systems, products, services, platforms, those are managed at group level through a federated model. That are the common services across all the BUs in our subsidiaries. But when it comes to the distinct services, for an example, that my business units is providing, which is consumer and small business, where we're focusing on mobile, then we've got very specific solutions and platforms that we are implementing and introducing. In doing that, then I make sure that it's effective and it runs for all the functions within my business units. So, in fact, my approach, which is supported by business, that's why we are able to make mileage, is that we have a digital strategy that's led from a business side of things. Because we don't want a technology-led strategy where we plug in technologies that may not necessarily support the ambitions and the KPIs that our business colleagues have. So they're driving that in terms of defining the use cases, how the journeys should look like from design. By the time it gets us from a development config, using the platforms that we are investing in. Obviously, we take the business input as we invest in those platforms. Then it all comes together. So business is really playing a pivotal role in everything that we are doing. And it's amazing how much of the digital literacy is in telecom. You speak to business people, I mean, the digital literacy is high up there, which makes it easy when we then looking at what it is that needs to be done and how it is that needs to be done, what technologies can we then implement. So it's really fascinating and it's humbling.
Because at the end of the day, a digital strategy needs to speak to the operational strategy of the company and, of course, contribute massively to, its profit margins. So without the ROI, what's the point of having a digital transformation strategy? So, but you touch on the digital platforms and services that you're currently working on. I'm just reminded of how I was at the beginning of this year. I was fortunate enough to be invited to a Telkom, the opening of the Telkom retail store in Manlin. And so it's a cashless store and it's also paperless. And, you wonder as you get the invitation, wow, there's no paper, you don't deal with cash here. How on earth does it work? But it's quite fascinating because that's really where even other retail stores are headed.
Yeah.
So then it got me wondering, though. Unfortunately, I'm not a Telkom customer, but it got me wondering, what are they doing on the digital platforms? If this is what they're doing with the physical retail store, how on earth do the digital platforms look?
Yeah.
So I guess you can tell us then what have you integrated and some of the latest technologies that you have on your app and other digital platforms.
Thank you. In fact, it's very interesting that you're touching on our flagship store from a digital point of view. I mean, that is informed largely by digital first, right? To say, I mean, people expect that there will be if there is human interface, it's at a particular level. But if you opt not to go for that, there must be a digital platform. There must be a digitized tool or something that you can engage with without even having to.
If you have to leave the house.
Exactly. So that's the same approach in terms of our digital channels. In fact, we've got a big program. Obviously, I'm not going to say what it is that we're doing in the background, but we've got a focused program now that is looking at all the channels from the app, from the WhatsApp to the USSDs, but also equipping our stores in the background so that our agents are just as digitally enabled as will the call center agents, because we've got store agents and then we've got call center agents. We're making sure that in the background they've got the platforms that are enabling them to be agile, to be responsive, but also the speed with which we deliver the service. If you're a customer and you're speaking to an agent online, they must be responsive. That's why we've got options where if you really don't need to be talking to an agent, we have a way of actually moving you to a digital platform of your choice where you'll be comfortable and you would get more answers from that without having to go to the agent. But should you then during your journey have a query or an issue, we're able to automatically put you back to the agent that can actually assist. But we're hoping that over time, as we implement all these platforms, that's going to become minimal and minimal. Why is that so? Because we're investing in Gen AI. We're investing in Gen AI, we're investing in humanization, and we're simplifying even the online digital engagements for the customers without even needing to speak to anyone. So it's going to feel like human-like. Even when you're chatting to our Tuso, the chatbot, you would feel almost as comfortable that you're speaking to a human. Yeah. In fact, we're introducing, soon going to be introducing an option where you can even chat to a bot via your phone, like online, not necessarily as a chat, like a WhatsApp chat.
Verbally?
Yeah, verbally, yeah. So that's where we're going. That's where we take. But I don't want to say much on that, but rest assured, even from the network side of things.
I have to ask you about generative AI, though.
Yeah. Yes.
What, if you can just give us some kind of indication on what will a telecom customer be able to do using generative AI on the platform?
Okay. In fact, they won't even need to know that they're doing that. So generative AI is more about facilitating customer journeys in a personalized fashion through conversations with the bot. That's one of the ways in which we are using it. And then if you're looking at your data and analytics, in terms of some of the solutions that we're also bringing on board, we're getting more intimate knowledge and understanding of you as our customer, so that we can personalize linked to the Gen AI functions to say, we know this number, we know this is Dr. Knox, and we know this is her preferences, we know the products that she has with us, we know her last query, and so forth. And all of that through Gen AI is automated, and we are able to personalize a conversation with you as our customer.
It's fascinating. Generative AI is very valuable in the journalism industry. But some journalists have spoken about how lazy it now makes them. You just go on there and, it transcribes your work for you. It gives you additional information. And of course, now you wonder how we ever lived without technology. Once upon a time. We spoke earlier on about how banks are becoming telecoms companies and how telecoms companies are increasingly becoming banks. And that is really true because, when I look at my app, my telco app, I'm able to make so many transactions now. I can't even distinguish the difference between my banking app and my service provider. So let's talk about some of those interesting functions. I mean, we're seeing a lot of also delving into the retail space. The bigger South African telcos are now offering, marketplaces where you can go on there and shop what you like. If you need a plumber, if you need some services in your house, really, where do we? The lines are becoming blurry.
Yeah.
So what can I do on a Telkom app?
It's very interesting.
Should the question be, what can't I do?
So it's really about the experience and convenience. When you're in our app, why must you need to go out of our app to be able to make transactions or payments? That's really the goal. Similarly, when you are in an F&B app, Absa app, you are able to actually buy airtime. So that's where convergence is key. But even more so, I mean, when you look at the market now in terms of how it's growing when it comes to robotics, but also in terms of the gaming and all of those things, through our apps, you must be able, through your wallet that you have in our app, to be able to access all these services. That's more from a marketplace point of view, because you're not necessarily accessing our core products and our core services, but through our platform, you are able to access services of the exactly. So that we are already playing
that you've partnered with, and what kind of services are you offering?
Yeah, so obviously we've got a roadmap. Amazon is one of them that we've started with, and in fact they are very impressed with the performance, and performance not just from number of people that are actually taking up the services through Telkom, but it's the amount of time that they're spending consuming those services, right? Whether it's streaming or whatever that they're doing. So it's very impressive, because remember, it's a win-win. when people are streaming, we get to win from a data point of view. But also, if you look at a company like Amazon, with whatever service, because they offer multiple services as well, customers have then the option to actually access and tap into those services without needing to actually leave our environment, without even feeling it. Yeah.
So just to give us an indication of the nature of the partnership Telkom has with Amazon, are we talking about Amazon.com? Because we know that Amazon's been making a big noise in South Africa because they've recently launched. Or is it the Amazon services, which includes as well your VOD services?
Yeah, it's the Amazon services that you are able to then...
so as a Telkom customer, I'm able to buy the streaming services. So that's the partnership. Is there any other partner... is there any other product from Amazon that I'm able to get via the app?
Not at this stage, but obviously we started because, you have a roadmap and a journey to say you're starting here, you're polishing this. Now that the results are positive, we are actually in discussions with them to see what else can be done. And Amazon is not the only company. We also have a list of companies that we're going to be tapping into, that we are in negotiations with, where we are actually even testing some of the services that we can offer and how those relationships. So we're getting there.
So how has the reception been regarding the Amazon service? Are South Africans taking up more, and are you offering a month-to-month subscription?
So currently it's more linked to when you take up a service with Telkom, and we give it a service for free from an Amazon platform, then you are able to actually go and redeem that service and that option either for a month or two. And if you are interested, then you can then officialize it and sign up. So currently that's where we are at, because obviously we have to test the market. But really, from the feedback that we've gotten from them, it's really been positive. So we are definitely going to be extending some of those services.
I actually got a similar option, or should I say offering, with my service provider, where I had a free month of Disney.
Yeah.
And so when that month ended, then for some reason they renewed it. I'm like, oh, another month of Disney.
Yeah.
So now that it's ended, I'm still wondering, should I get myself, because there were one or two programs that I was hooked on. So it's kind of a great way of really increasing customers, because I'm considering getting a subscription because I had that free month or two. So let's talk about, more about where you are headed with your digital strategy. So you've spoken about the app and perhaps the USSD and the web platform. What does the future hold for that? Do we still need a USSD?
In fact, it is one of our performing channels.
Oh, believe it or not. I was at a salsa event last week and I heard the same thing.
Yeah, it's one of our performing channels. So look, in terms of our strategy, is that we want to offer the customers, because remember, customers have different preferences, right? And from a personalization, you also need to consider that. Others are just comfortable using WhatsApp, right? But we want to make sure that when you're on WhatsApp, you get as efficient a service as possibly can. But also, even if you want to take up new products you want to buy, you must be able to perform all those functions. And similarly, when you are in the app, we want to make sure that you get the service, because we've got different preferences for these services, as customers.
I find that on WhatsApp, though, it is a chatbot, right?
Yes.
Do you also have human agents on WhatsApp?
Yeah, so that's the one that I was talking about, to say we are in a process of, soon you're going to be releasing a few services that are advanced to a point of being able to chat to our bot, to so via the phone, and not necessarily having to actually do a physical chat and typing and get whatever information you need. Let's say you want your bill, you'll be able to just say, hello, this is my requirement, without needing to have to go through a screening process, because we know your number, you know who you are, and so forth. So that's why we've been investing a lot in understanding our customers and simplifying the processes, so that the customer doesn't feel that each time they have to engage with us, they must start from scratch and they're being profiled, and we've simplified. But also from our end, personal information is very important, so we're compliant. So we're doing that in a responsible manner. So we don't just take the data that we have in our environment for granted and do with it what we want to do. We still make sure that we protect our customers, and we make use of it in a responsible and accountable manner. So that's also very
important.
Yeah, so that our customers can feel free, and they must have the confidence and the trust that we are taking care of their interest insofar as the data is concerned.
Speaking of WhatsApp communication for customer service, I'm not too fond of that because it gets very frustrating when your queries can never be responded to. But one company that's really doing that well, and I have to mention the name, is DSTV. You're able to even change the kind of package that you have. You can almost do everything that you can do with a human agent just on that WhatsApp channel. But then that leaves me with another question. There are still many customers who still prefer human interaction. How do you then balance that, even with just the services that you offer via your USSD and other platforms?
Okay, that's why we still have call centers, and that's why we have our stores where the customer,
so the walk-in
the walk-in stores, okay. yes, but also the agents. In fact, interestingly, we keep tabs from a research point of view in terms of how our customers are feeling with regards to the different platforms and stuff like that, and it has come up multiple times, and we realize now that there's no way we're gonna get away completely from that, where customers still have a need for a human touch, which is why we actually trying to minimize and make up for that need through the digital first channels by making sure that we introduce humanization of these tools, where even if you're talking to a bot, you actually don't necessarily feel,
and you don't know. That's how you know you're doing it right.
Exactly. So those are some of our focus areas insofar as the digital channels are concerned. Obviously linked to our digital strategies. I mean, all I can say is that watch the space, because we really are determined to actually get to that point without necessarily saying we'll take away the human interface, but we want to maximize the digital first engagements, self-service, just to put the comfort and the convenience back in the hands of the customers. But should that not go well, there's always channels that are available to the customer where they can actually speak to a human.
So when you say self-service, I'm imagining the future now, because I don't know what's in store. I can only imagine and guess. Can we see a time where you're actually able to sign up, a contract via an app without human intervention? The reason why I asked this is I was at a launch of an MVNO last week, and they've got this facility that allows you to recur.
Yes, in fact, that's one of the initiatives that we're busy with. We are doing it already. Obviously, we need to take it to the next level from a simplification.
Are you at pilot phase?
Yeah, from a simplification point of view. Let me explain. Because I remember, even as part of RICA policies, those are regulated requirements where you need to make sure that you remain compliant. But also you want to make sure that you don't overload the customers insofar as the affordability is concerned, from the credit checking, credit vetting. All those things still needs to take place. But we are looking at, from a process point of view, in the background, means of and ways of still remaining compliant, but simplify that process with the view that if once it's simplified and everything is done to the T, you are then able to actually facilitate all those processes. Currently, that's how it's happening, but obviously we still have multiple handovers in the background to actually facilitate that process. And that's a process that we are busy with re-engineering and cleaning and tidying up, so that a complete process end-to-end can happen within a short time, but also without a customer having to feel any hassles whilst remaining compliant.
Wow. Yeah. It's a lot of work though, but definitely
exciting.
Yes.
It's very exciting.
We live in exciting times in light of the digital economy. Just hearing you speak, Dr. Noxolo, I am just so inspired, and I'm thinking to myself, why do we not have more women at the helm of these IT units? Why? But perhaps let's just touch a little bit on transformation. We are in Women's Month, and we've been talking a lot to women who are really making strides in the industry. in your opinion, what have been some of the challenges and opportunities? Perhaps we can start with the challenges of just working in a male-dominated industry.
Yeah. So I think for me, with the years of experience in the field, the maturity that comes with this, the understanding of the boardroom ethics, but also the politics that comes, the undercurrent stuff, you actually get better and better, and you don't feel it. And those are some of the things.
Take notes of those things.
Exactly. And those are the things that we need to be equipping the ladies, the young ladies, up and coming ladies into our environments to learn those things quicker than we did. At this point, I'm very comfortable.
The perceptions, the skewed perceptions of women, and the stereotypes.
Not so much
the
that
treatment of.
Not so much that. It's how to deal confidently and be able to add
when you're the only female in the
exactly, or few females supporting one another. So I would imagine people my age, we had to go through a few of those challenges, but with maturity and understanding of the dynamics in the workplace, right? The politics in the boardrooms and everything that happens, and the general approach with men having been doing this more than women, and how they groomed at an early age to lead, to take over. Even at home, you would find a husband leaving the house telling their son to say, "You are the man of the house." Now that I'm
in the mothers,
so exactly. So they are groomed into that. So our job, those of us who have actually made it and managed to actually stay and stick it out, is to make the learning for the young and upcoming shorter, so that when they get into these spaces, they're already at that level from a confidence point of view. They know what it is to expect, and they know how it is to actually respond.
And they don't feel intimidated.
So we must make that journey and that process for them shorter. I think that's where we can.
There are women who have been in the industry for decades and they're still struggling.
So on that one, how I've managed to survive is that, one, in terms of the being a subject matter expert, the expertise that I bring to the table, the capabilities that I bring to the table, they give me so much confidence, because then I've got the authority to be sitting on that table, and I know that I'm adding value, and there's that feminine power that actually comes with knowing that even if you're sitting amongst men and they have their say, you can equally take your space and have your say and contribute meaningfully as the expert that you are. Nothing
without needing to be validated.
You don't, because you are comfortable in your own skin. You are comfortable in your own. You understand well that this is my role, this is my mandate, and I understand what my mandate is. I'm not going to allow anyone to now try and coach and teach me indirectly about my mandate when I'm sitting in the very same table with them. So that's how I survive. In fact, it's to a point that I really, even at this point, it used to bother me, but right now, it's not even something that I think about, because each time I walk into that boardroom, I belong there. I've got the authority.
Girl, you go there and you shine.
Exactly. Because people would ask questions.
Head up high, because you know that you did not just get there because you know somebody who knows somebody. You've worked your way there.
Exactly. And people tend to ask questions, not directly to me, but in general. That, in any setting, really. When you're sitting there, what gives you the authority to be even interviewing me? Those are some of the things that people are looking at. So it's the same thing in the workplace. So what gives me the authority to be sitting in that table? It's everything that I am in work for in the industry and what I bring to the table. That's what gives me the authority. If you understand that and you are comfortable in your own skin, guess what? There are no dynamics in the boardroom that are going to bother you. If anything, you are also just as comfortable as the men that are sitting in the boardroom with you.
Wow.
So that's for me. That's my attitude, and and I think it can work by just making sure that we prepare the young ones to actually even get better at it and do it much earlier and sooner than we did. Yeah.
Speaking of the young ones, this is my final question. You speak about women who are already in the IT industry. What about those who are still trying to get into the industry, or maybe women that, the youngsters who feel, well, maybe I'm better off as a nurse instead of an IT technician or study engineering, although I do have an interest in that field, but do I really want to do it?
Yeah.
What advice do you have?
I mean, it's the responsibility really lies with us, those of us that are there, to be advocates, to be out there, to be seen, so that the young girl can see and know that this is actually possible. But also, it's a communal thing, you know. Parents is, I mean, a girl child gets molded at home. Their dreams, they start at home, the exposure that they get, the responsibilities that they get, how we speak to girls vis-a-vis how you speak to a boy child in the house shapes what possibilities a girl child would see as opposed to the possibilities that a boy child would see. But if you implanting confidence in your girl child in terms of infinite possibilities, that they can be anything and everything that they're doing, by the time they get to high school where they have to choose the subjects, they are confident in themselves. It's not a matter of saying, okay, from a preference point of view, just choose these subjects. The confidence starts from as way back as you growing up. That worked for me. My dad used to think I was the most beautiful girl on earth. He used to call me Indoni Amanzi. So that gave me the confidence, even in early stages of my life. But also, guess who was the real reason I ended up doing the PhD? Besides the fact that I fancied it, but the person who made me take the step and go there and apply was my dad. Because he believed that I could just be anything that I wanted. And I'm thinking, PhD, really? And you'll be like, why not? So that the language and the things we say to a girl child, they're very important. And if you start those early, you've got a better chance of having a few or many girl children considering STEM subjects, because they have the confidence that they can do this and they deserve this. But if we're not going to do it at that level, by the time someone is choosing at the university level, one, they're limited by the subjects that they've taken, because they would have taken subjects without necessarily thinking about the future, without necessarily doing a proper research in terms of what would be required of the subjects for me to get into a STEM space, and so on. So there's lots that we need to do to try and be advocates, be seen, so that girl child from rural areas and a girl child from urban areas, including the townships, they can see that it's actually possible. There are people. I come from Empangeni, Ingwelezane township, and I schooled and matriculated in a Bantu, under Bantu education from KwaNongoma, at the heart of Zululand. But look where I'm sitting now. So it's possible. It doesn't matter the background, really, but it's what gets instilled in you. Exactly. At home as a young girl, growing up, the consistency with which the people that surround you, that's supporting you, you understand, are actually motivating you, keeping you on the edge and wanting to do more. It's very important. And then when it gets to corporate, we must do our part and bring them up. The young girls, when they come into the environment doing internships, you must embrace them, expose them, support them, be their advocates, be their mentors, be their coaches. That's the responsibility that we have. And I do that a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that you do that a lot, because I can imagine that you are inspiring many, many young girls out there. And it's so unfortunate that we have run out of time. I wish you all the best. May you continue inspiring many young women, and also just in your everyday work, in your line of work, we know you're adding a lot of value to millions of customers out there, many who you'll never get to meet. So we do actually wish you the best, and thank you so much for inviting us into your space. It's been a fascinating discussion, and I've learned quite a lot.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, and thanks to everybody.
Thank you so much. And that was, of course, Dr. Noxolo Kubheka-Dlamini, who is the Telkom Chief Digital and Information Officer. Remember to subscribe and do follow us on X, and that's ITWeb. From me, Sibahle Malinga, Take care.